Hi friends, how are you? Today the discussion is going to be on the Union Budget 2021. Many speakers have spoken about that, but I find that there are certain areas which we have to be focused on. The proper perspective of the government, how the government of India has had a kind of a thought before preparing the budget, and how the implementation is going to be like. So these parts have not been properly addressed. So I thought my viewers have to understand this union budget of our government of India in a proper perspective. So this video is going to be talk about that. Before that, please subscribe. Let us talk about the union budget. I am going to take up some 5 important aspects. As you know well, 5 is the fascinating number for our channel. So we are going to discuss some 5 areas of how this budget is going to be of very much useful to the people of India. The first aspect is that the fiscal deficit. You know what? The deficit means that excess, our income is less and the expenditure is more. That is why we get the deficit, as you all know. But most of the budgets, if you just go through the budget, I find that the last 2 decades, the budget financing was totally different. And this time, they have made it so transparent. You know what? Let me explain it. Say for an element called off-budget borrowings. Off-budget borrowings means Government of India will also go for borrowing not directly but indirectly through some public sector institutions like Food Corporation of India. What they do is, instead of the borrowings done by the Government of India, the government will in turn make the PSUs, public sector undertakings, to borrow funds from others. But that will not reflect in the budget. So what happens is, this is known as off-budget borrowings. So what happens is, they will show some less figure of borrowings so that the political parties, the critics, may not be so much criticizing on that particular aspect. But you know what? The real problem is, the people should know what actually the borrowings of the government. So this time they have included this off-budget borrowings also into the total borrowings of the government of India. This is a very transparent and a bold approach, because you may find that in the past 2 decades, if I am correct, in 20 years, not even a single budget has highlighted this off-budget borrowings. But this budget has included that aspect also in our total borrowings. So this shows what the government is really thinking about the budget preparations. The government thinks that there must be a transparency. First of all, you should put across all our cards on the table. People should know about what actually the standing of the government of India, where to start. So that part, I find that is a very interesting part in our budget. So deficit financing, if you read about the fiscal deficit, this aspect seems to be very important. Is okay, you know that increase is now quoted as 135% increase in the total deficit. It is not because that they are going for much borrowings, they are now declaring the off-budget borrowings also into the budget. So that is why this figure has become like that, 135%. Now the second aspect is, eventually the question will arise, am I correct? Suppose if the deficit is there, how to finance? One way is that going for taxes, further taxes. You know what happened this time? Absolutely there is no further tax. So this shows the concern for the people. You know, when the government is thinking of deficit financing, the immediate attention is going to be on the revision of the tax, or they will go for further tax. But this time they have not done that. That also shows really the concern for the people, and also the government of India thinks in different sense about how to finance the deficit. So instead, you know what they did? They have gone for cut short the subsidies. You know, subsidies part, I think most of you will agree with me. When you start a company, the government of India will give you say 20 or 20% of subsidies. Means you can get loans, but when you go for repayment, you can reduce 20 or 25% of the total amount, the principal amount. That will to some extent encourage. But in most of the cases, if you just go through the history of the what you call this kind of subsidies, you will understand that most of the subsidies are not properly utilized. They have been mismanaged. You will find that many companies have started only for the purpose of just getting this what you call the subsidies. So this time they have reduced 44% reduction in the subsidies part. So this is how they have adjusted. Instead of going for the tax, they adjusted the deficit by cut short the subsidies. So that also I find that it's a welcome move depending on the what you call the changing scenario in the whole world as well as in our India. So these three are related but very important aspects. The fourth one is, which I consider most important, is that infrastructural financing. This is the first time that they have given a lot of allocations for the capital expenditure. You know that this time around 31% of increase the total capital expenditure, infrastructural financing. You know what is that infrastructure financing? The government of India is thinking in terms of going for the better roads, better railways, better ports. So like that, some kind of urbanization practices. So they are going to invest. So if you think in terms of even a family, the investment on assets is always important. Similarly, our government of India also investing in infrastructural facilities. So for that, they have also started. They have also announced two different type of institutions to monitor the funds allotted for the infrastructure. One is known as the Development Finance Institution. The other one is known as the National Asset Monetization Pipeline. So these two institutions always they will focus on the infrastructural financing part of the India. So this part also seems to be very important step what the government is really thinking about the budget and also its allocations. So that's another part. And the fourth one is the insurance. You know, see, this time they have included the FDIs. They have increased foreign direct investment into the India has been almost increased to 74%. This is an alarming figure because see, even now the foreign insurance companies can come to India and they can have a joint venture with our own insurance companies, and you will find there will be a lot of improvement in the insurance sector. The same thing also could be included the banking sector also. This in another terms is known as disinvestment by the government of India, but still this approach of inviting the foreign direct investment into the company will definitely work out in a larger scale of our economy. And the last one is known as the GDP growth rate. See, the government of India, people say that the government doesn't have that heart, instead they have only the head to calculate. But remember, government of India is very sensitive in this issue. Instead of showing GDP growth like 20% or 25%, they have got only a 14.5%, a very reasonable, a moderate growth rate they expect. So with all that, what I find is that this budget is in a real sense has a focus on what the government is likely to do. So they have a heart in that, the heart in the sense they want to get a what you call a stronger India in the sense of asset mobilization, in the sense of foreign direct investments, in the sense of transparency in the entire governance, a sense of what you call the no further taxes. So with all that, I find this approach seems to be a better approach for the developing economy like India. I think you would appreciate with that, and I hope that this kind of a looking at the budget will always, instead of going for simply allocations, that's not going to be of much beneficial, because everybody is going to be say that somebody is going to be benefited, somebody is not. But instead, if you focus on what is the heart of the budget, what actually the government thinks, what is the mind of the budget, if you look at that, these 5 points are going to be of very much different indicators which you will understand the budget in a right perspective. Thank you very much. Bye.